thank you for inviting me and for having the opportunity to tell you a little bit about the Fieldlab vertical farming in Zuid-Holland. Zuid-Holland is a province in the Netherlands. It's a regional initiative, and my role is that of project leader. Personally, I've been active in the vertical farming industry since 2014, previously employed by Philips Lighting and now self-employed. The project that I'm going to discuss with you is a European funded project. So it's funded both by the European Union and by the regional province. So also that the logos on the bottom tell you that. First of all, the Fieldlab, what is the idea? Is that working with the regional development organization called Innovation Quarter, IQ, you also see them at the bottom. We were in a discussion a few years back already, about 2 years back or so, to see what can we do to help. Of course, the Netherlands are already quite competitive in greenhouse farming, and then therefore also you can also call this a peri-urban way of urban farming, I would say. So that sector is of course very well developed and leading, but not so much yet in indoor or vertical farming. And the idea was that we have actually a lot of knowledge available. Can we unite that and create a group that has a little bit more horsepower to bring this forward? So what we're looking at is also seeing that actually the international developments are probably more important than the local developments, given the strength of the greenhouse industry already in Northwestern Europe. It's not that easy to make a big difference with a larger scale vertical farm. But internationally, you do see a lot of developments, especially in places like the Middle East or North America or in Asia. Also, we are triggered by the global need for improvements in food infrastructure and food safety. We have a lot more people in the world. These people need to be fed in a good way. And also, of course, the people need to have access to safe food, free from pollutants and other kinds of climate risks. Obviously, also we can build in the Netherlands on the available industry and knowledge that's in horticulture already. So we put together a Fieldlab as a mechanism to do this. Fieldlab basically is a tool or a construct that is being used quite a lot, at least in the Netherlands and maybe also in other places in Europe, as a way to try and foster development of innovative things in a sort of halfway in between research and deployment. And that's also what the Fieldlab here is. It's not a physical lab, it is a collaboration between partners from industry. So partners there are Signify, formerly called Philips Lighting, Logix, who is a company that builds logistics systems for horticulture, Future Crops, the largest commercial indoor farm in the Netherlands, and On Greens, a smaller company that also develops indoor farming systems. Also from research and consulting, Wageningen University Research, in Holland, who are a vocational school, Delphy, an improvement center, who are consultants in farming technology, farming knowledge, and Vertify, who is also a research organization. And also we had the support from government or semi-government organizations. In the Netherlands, we have the Green Ports, which are the regional collaboration organizations for horticulture industry, and also Innovation Quarter. Within the Fieldlab, we have defined 4 work packages. Package 1 is about market understanding and development. So the marketing side, the communication side. Number 2 is about innovation and demonstration, understanding how to do better and how to have better results from indoor farming systems. Number 3 is about education and training, making sure that we get the right skills and people trained to be able to function in a new form of farming. And 4th is a business accelerator, which is the idea that this, of course, is a publicly funded project with a limited period that it runs for. And the idea is that, of course, after the project is over, that we still have something that we can use going forward. So that's the business accelerator, how to create a platform to do that. I'll tell you a little bit more about those work packages in the next couple of slides. First of all, about market understanding and development. And basically, there's a few things that we're trying to achieve there. First of all, understanding, and this is actually a concern, and I'm not sure whether you've discussed this yesterday already, but this is a concern between the people that are developing indoor farming and building indoor farms or running indoor farms is how do consumers actually perceive indoor farming. It's a especially if you do it in vertical farming, and you see it already on the picture on the right. It's done in funky light. It's done fully indoors. It's greenhouse taken to the max. And whereas on one hand, consumers probably care more about quality of food and freshness and nutritional qualities. On the other hand, also people will care about the production method. At least they have perception of how it works. So we've done and we are doing market research to understand how consumers look at this. So far, and I have to say this research has been done mostly in the Netherlands until now. So there are also quite large regional differences in Europe, I am sure. But so far, we're finding that consumers actually care most about the quality of the food more than about how it was produced. On the other hand, also people find it a very interesting way of farming and actually don't necessarily see it as a bad way of doing it. That's the initial response we've gotten. What we are now doing also is trying to understand better what the value chain perception is, which is basically of the operators in a farm, in a farming value chain. So from base materials inputs through farming, through wholesale, through retail, through consumer. How do those players look at indoor farming? And again, what would they require to embrace it, or how would they want to position it in their stores? That's actually ongoing. And in the end, this should also lead to a better understanding of how indoor farm produce should be positioned. And this is something that the operators find very, very important. Is how do you sell this? How do you offer this to the to retailers in the general public? And also how you distinguish it from, for instance, biological produce, or how do you distinguish it from standard produce? So the idea is also that we want to understand this in such a way that we can work towards developing something like a label or certification method that basically also assures the public that the produce is of the right quality. And finally, also this should lead in the end to basically this whole economic analysis should also lead to the development of better business models for indoor farms. By the way, if you have questions, I think we have a few minutes at the end. Maybe that's best, but otherwise, if it's really urgent, feel free to shoot. For the second work package is about innovation and demonstration. Two things are happening there. On one hand, we've built some test infrastructure, which is climate chambers at Wageningen University in Bleiswijk location, and at Delphi, which is right next door there. So they've both built controlled environments, growth chambers. And what we're doing actually is we're looking at also involving the facilities that are available at our partner companies within the Fieldlab to do comparative collaborative testing. So basically we're taking the same crop, the same seed, the same basic growth recipe, so the same nutrition, the same temperature settings, the same everything, light settings, everything, and growing those crops and seeing and comparing the outcome, with the idea being that if you have an indoor farming system, that the system has an influence on the outcome. And this turns out to be true. So you do see that even though the overall settings are the same, you see differences. And those differences can be the result of microclimate, basically things that are happening between the leaves and at the plant level. But it can also be because of the systems are not necessarily always standardized in how they are being operated. So what this is giving us is tools to understand how the growth system affects the results. Also, it helps us to develop ways to compare and calibrate systems, and therefore also to make steps towards proper standardization of indoor farms. Secondarily, or also this will lead us to support the selection of crops, so the seeds, where do we start from, and the growth recipes. And obviously also this again is intended to support the development of competitive indoor farms with better growth recipes, better understanding what's happening, and better ways to predict the results. Then the third work package is the education and training package. I think it was mentioned already in the introductory remarks. It's very important that you not only have the technology, but you also have the people that know how to use the technology and that can do it in a good way. And this is being identified as a key issue for developing a successful sector. And on the other hand, you also see that actually many young students who are getting into horticulture are quite attracted to high-tech ways of farming and modern ways of becoming a farmer. So what we're looking at is how can we create the skills, degrees, competences that are needed for being running good indoor farms. And that's not just being a farmer itself, so understanding how to be a farmer in an indoor farm, which works a little bit differently than the open field and also differently than a greenhouse, but also looking at the business side of this. So understanding if you have an indoor farm, what is your position? How do you sell your product? How do you offer it? How do you market it? How do you basically run the operation? And this is being done by a collaboration of different institutions. So it's the institutions that are part of the Fieldlab. So it's Wageningen and in Holland, but also educators internationally looking to compare notes and see also how you can create a set of credentials that have international recognition. Finally, or the third bullet here is also part of the work in the Fieldlab is to provide students that are currently doing their education with learning and development opportunities at partners of the Fieldlab so that they can actually get first-hand experience in working in an indoor farming environment. Then the fourth work package that we're developing is called the Business Accelerator. And in essence, it's about balancing innovation, cooperation, and competence, making sure that you get actually the people that are working in the indoor farming sector to work together. This was also mentioned in the introductory remarks, where you see that at least from a traditional perspective in the Netherlands, but I'm sure also in other places, the horticulture sector has been quite, of course, it's often fairly conservative, but also people that are not necessarily used to sharing a lot of research and initiatives, because if you know something better than your competitor, you keep it to yourself because that allows you to be more successful. If you're looking at a high-tech innovation like indoor farming, it is quite useful and actually important that you do work together so that you can share the insights from different disciplines and put them together in a better way. Well, this is something that we're working on. It's not easy, but it's taking shape. We have actually also put together a group on LinkedIn, for instance, which is called Indoor Farming Netherlands, which is very much tailored towards the Dutch industry. So also the language is Dutch, but it's there. And we're trying to make sure that we get people from across the value chain. Also, you see this picture on the bottom where you have from inputs, technology, and knowledge through growers, distributors, retailers to consumers. Basically, see how can we develop a strong sector, which basically stands for also a new category of fresh produce. Well, very importantly is we're building trust there. We're getting to know each other. We're also inviting people that have not traditionally been part of the horticulture value chain to share their thoughts. So we can put together a strong sector there. And let me see. And finally, of course, we don't stand on our own. So of course, the project is as I started out with, started as a regional initiative, which has now spread to the entire Netherlands, but that's still a very small country. And more importantly, even though the Netherlands have a very strong position in knowledge and technology relevant for indoor farming, actually running an indoor farm is not very smart idea to do this in the Netherlands because of the position already enjoyed by the greenhouse sector. So an international outlook is key. And what we're trying to do as part of our work is to make sure that we unite the available knowledge and skills in growers, technology, high-tech systems, knowledge and education, but also the government support sectors, to create a solid platform for this industry to develop. And in doing so, we're also working together with an organization I think has spoken to you yesterday, FarmTech Society, who are an international association for the controlled environment agriculture sector based in Brussels, which help us to also develop further the ideas and also make sure that we have a platform with the policymakers and legislators as this sector develops, and also addressing issues like also mentioned at the beginning in terms of, okay, what place does indoor farming, urban farming take in the whole landscape of agricultural technologies and agricultural policies. With that, I'd like to close. That's my introduction to the Field Lab. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.